As National Park Week 2025 winds down, let's discuss our National Park pro tips.
What to know before you go today on the Wandering But Not Lost podcast. Welcome to Wandering But Not Lost, your online source for finding balance so that you can align, connect, and prosper. And now your hosts, Jen O'Brien and Matt Emerson. Welcome back to the Wandering But Not Lost podcast, where we wander with intention and align with clarity. This is episode 349. You can find all those show notes over at wbnlpodcast.com. We spent the last week, 2 podcasts, plethora of shorts, long-form video, bunch of carousels on Instagram, just a bunch of blog posts. We've been very national park heavy this week, and it's been kind of exciting, and it's been a great ride. And I love talking about the national parks because one conversation leads on to another memory and another conversation. And my wife and I have been talking about it at night, and it's just been a great, fun week. And I hope you've kind of experienced that too. From daily shorts, like I said, all the way through Instagram carousels, it's about a community conversation. And we've been living and breathing the park life this week, and it's really been enjoyable. So hopefully we spark something inside of you, maybe even a little bit of fire in you to plan your next great escape into the wild, or definitely one of the national parks. And on that note, today we're taking things from inspired to prepared. It's all about what to know before you go, our best national park pro tips to make your trip smoother, safer, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit more meaningful.
And as you probably can surmise, we do have a great free download for you this week. This is a very practical download. And Matt has put a lot of energy into this because he is the master wandering pro tip man when it comes to national parks. Mm-hmm. So we're calling it your Mindful National Park Visit Checklist, a simple guide to prepare, explore, and align with nature. There's really a lot of practical stuff in there. Everything we're going to talk about on the podcast today, this is completely going to help you for any visit that you make to really any nature spot, but specifically to national parks, because you're going to get Matt's insider tips. Just go navigate over to wonderingbuttnotlost.com, click on the downloads, and you will see Mindful National Park Visit Checklist. Don't miss it, right? So let's start with a little park love. I have to shout out some of my favorites. Can't wait to get back, and I will start with Sequoia, my number one fave, the ever majestic Yosemite, and of course the Red Rocks of all of Utah's Mighty Five. All of the parks in Utah are in my favorite number 3. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I think that it's when you talk about what your favorite parks are, it's really hard to say because they all are so different and also unique. I'm going to pick my 3 that I'm going to give a shout out to are all along the I-90 corridor. So they're all accessible from Interstate 90. They run across the top of the United States from coast to coast. And the first one actually is Olympic National Park, which is so amazing because you can hit alpine rainforests and coastlines all in a single day. As you're heading east over at Glacier National Park, the water is bluer than belief. The glaciers that are still there, fewer every year, but are absolutely amazing. So that one is, I want to get back there so badly. And then over on the East Coast is Acadia National Park, which is a gem on the East Coast as well, because not only are there mountains and beautiful ruggedness there, there's a whole backstory to how that park was actually developed by the robber barons of the day, using it as kind of a playground. And then they had a little mind shift themselves and said, you know what? This shouldn't just be for us. This should be for the nation to enjoy. It's absolutely spectacular. And then the coastline is so rugged there. And it's one of the first places, Maine, where the sun rises in the United States. So you get to have those beautiful, beautiful sunrises. It's a really, honestly, it's a spiritual experience. All right. So it's crazy. Now, as far as bucket list parks, places I haven't been that I would love to go, one that is always on my list is Mammoth Cave. There's underground wonders there beyond belief. It's a huge cave system. I love spelunking. It is fun. We've been to Carlsbad Caverns a couple times. One time when we went to Carlsbad, we actually took an off-trail, kind of a private little tour. Or, you go with a small group where you get off the beaten path there at Carlsbad. You are totally in gear. You're using ropes. You're going not down into gigantic caverns, but you're going down. There's one part of that where they take you into a room. You're crawling to get through. The space is too small. They turn off all the lights and you are in complete darkness.
Oh no, I don't think I could do that.
I'm telling you, there is no such thing as complete darkness unless you were in a cave.
Wow.
Because there's always some sort of light that filters in, and complete silence. It is unbelievable. And they warn you about that before you actually start that, because if you had any sort of claustrophobia or dark afraid of the darkness or anything like that, you would panic. But wonderful. I've also been to Jewel Cave and to Wind Cave up in South Dakota. Both of those are wonderful caves too. Crystal Cave in Sequoia National Park is beautiful. There's caves everywhere, people. Oregon Cave up in Oregon. There's so many places to go, but Mammoth Cave, that is the gem. That's the mother of the caves.
And you've not been, Mr. Splunker?
No, because you know what? Here's the deal. You just can't. Kentucky for us is on the way to nowhere. And it's kind of hard just to go there. I mean, so I planned it more than once, because during COVID, I thought to myself, you know what? When this mess is over, we are flying to Memphis, or that's Tennessee. But I think actually you do have to fly to Memphis to get, it's the closest one. Anyway, we kind of planned it out, but we ended up number 2. This one is really far away. I mean, the other one was really far away. You can't get there. The number 2 on my list is the freaking Channel Islands, which is right here off the California coast, which we talk about going to every year. We never can get to. Best time to go is in April. Tick, 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 tick. April's almost over. I don't know if we're going to get there this year, but that's on my list as well. And then number 3 is Isle Royale in Michigan. In the Great Lakes, the forest and the trees, that to me looks like it's a beautiful park no matter what time you are in the year. But it sounds to me from pictures I've seen in the fall, not only do you have the beautiful pine trees, but there's a lot of indigenous trees that actually lose their leaves and turn. So I think that's beautiful all year round. Plus the weather might not be as bad in the fall. So anyway, those are my 3 top bucket lists. Jan O'Brien, what are your 3?
Well, mine is redwoods, which I sometimes lovingly refer to as redlands.
Thank you for bringing that up, because we got a good laugh over that yesterday.
Redlands. I'm like, Redlands. I want to go to Redlands. And he's like,
and I'm like, you know what? Why would you go to Redlands? It's right outside of San Bernardino here. You can just come to our house and we'll take you.
There's no national park there, Jen. No. But redwoods, the major tree lover that I am, I can't believe I've never been. So that is tops on my bucket list. Crater Lake. Matt has talked about Crater Lake. I've seen the pictures, the blue. I mean, I just have to go experience that. And then Rocky Mountain National Park. I've been to Colorado. I've just never actually gotten to, the park, that high altitude piece. Right? That's what I'm ready for.
Yeah, and all of those parks are beautiful. And Rocky Mountains, it's so fantastic that the road that cuts through the park, just if you're driving through, I think it's right off the ice.
Maybe not during the dead of the winter, but,
Yeah. It's amazing. I think that road closes in the wintertime anyway. It's amazing. All right. Okay, so let's talk about planning a little, before you actually make your plan, and some tips before you actually go. Because here's where the wandering meets logistics in this situation, and a little foresight goes a long way in this process. My wife and I, we love to wander. So when we are choosing parks to go on, or a path to go, if you're going to hit a couple different parks, you really need to do your homework first. So choose your park with intention. And ask yourself, what are you looking for? If you just have a blank slate and you're like, where are we going this summer? Ask yourself these questions first. Are you seeking solitude? Are you seeking adventure? You want spiritual awe? Or do you just want some place where you can go for family fun? And then you match the vibe of what you're looking for to the season, obviously, and then to your energy. And then you can find a park that's going to align with any of those things. Or you could even put together a trip. Why do I, when I'm talking about the national parks, I get the chills? It is really weird. Anyway, because I am like, you could actually do a vacation where you could hit all of those things, and it could be something for the whole family in there. We always recommend that you, if you haven't already done this, to download the MPS app. before you head out. Great information in the app, and it will keep you grounded on all the things that are available there. And then more than anything else, you'll get information about park conditions, which is so important when you're going to a national park. If there's any fire danger that's going on, trail closures that are happening, road closures, that's huge. So you want to make sure you check that all out, because you check it out before you start making your plans, but then make sure you check it out before you get turn the ignition, or excuse me, you don't turn ignitions anymore, before you push the button in your car, because things could change as far as the conditions of the park. So that's super important. If you have not invested in a national park pass, I would suggest that you do that, especially if you're planning on hitting more than 3 parks in a year. The park passes, I think, I haven't looked at for a while to see what the price is. It was $80 a year. It might have gone up a little bit from that. But point being that a national park, for the most part, the entrance fees are anywhere between $20 and $35 to get in, so it doesn't take long if you're going on the national park adventure to get into that. So I really would recommend taking that into effect. Yeah,
I want to add a thing that happened to me when I was visiting a national historical site in Florida. If you are a veteran or active duty military, you can get a free for life park pass, which I didn't really know about, Matt, until I went to that particular place, and we were in St. Augustine with my sister. And the guy was like, "Are you a veteran or military?" And I'm like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact." And he gives me this whole thing, and he made a big deal about it. And now I have that. So if you're a veteran or military, you take advantage of that.
And adding on to that, one more layer of that, also, if you're a senior, you have a free pass that goes into. So once you get to be 62 years old, you also
62 senior.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. There you go.
Senior. So there's a lot of ways, because here's the deal. Obviously, the money for a pass goes towards the national parks, and it helps to keep upkeep. And so does your entrance fee as well. And sometimes it's like, Laura and I were like, I feel a little guilty not paying anything. So sometimes when we're in the visitor center, we'll drop a little dollar.
Exactly. That's what I would do.
Very important tip for national parks that you need to check before you go, and this is something that changes very frequently with season, and just as more people are visiting the park. A lot of parks now are requiring a reservation to actually get in or to drive in. So check that out before you go. Like timed entry to the parks happen at Yosemite now during certain seasons, and Zion it happens, and Arches, and most likely a lot of other parks across the United States, because our population is not getting less in the world, it's getting more. So, there are going to be more and more people visiting, thankfully. And I always love it when I see a lot of people there. But they can't, it can only hold so many. You can't expand the parks to be bigger. That wouldn't be good. So anyway, check that out. And if you have to make that reservation, make sure you do that beforehand. And then one of the biggest tips that we have when you're planning your trip and when you're thinking about things, that you just need to leave no trace. That is a model you're going to see as you go around the parks. So if you're going to pack things in, take things out, do some picnicking, whatever your plans are going to be there, make sure you pack it out, because the national parks are run by the National Parks Service. They're the stewards of the national park, but you too are a steward of the national park. They're part of our heritage in the United States. Yeah. So, and just remember, we're not just visitors there. You're a steward in the park.
Absolutely. Next up, packing like a pro. So let's talk gear, because the right stuff makes all the difference. So trail tools, a paper map, which is awesome. I'm always a fan of paper maps. Or get a trusted app. I like AllTrails, Gaia GPS. I've used that as well, but I'm a fan of AllTrails. Remember now, the reality is you got to have a signal for that if you're going to use it as an app on your phone. So paper map might be a great idea as well. And if you are using your phone, another pro tip, don't forget to I usually bring more than one, battery backups. Have those charged. You can charge those in your room, each day when you're out doing whatever hiking and wandering you're doing. So backup batteries will help you, especially if you're out all day and your phone battery dies. Always have a safety kit. So first aid, whistle, flashlight, headlamp if you're going to be out after dark, rain gear, right? Got to throw in mindfulness gear, notebook and pen. Always, my packs have a notebook and pen inside of a Ziploc, right? Nature is the best prompt. You're going to find. You're going to get inspired. and you might want to have a sit pad or maybe something that you could carry in your pack that allow you to sit down so you can meditate or just take a moment in, and maybe you might want to write something down because something's probably going to come to you because you will have inspiration galore. Day pack essentials. So day pack, probably a water bladder. I always carry, one of those. That's my thing. Or some kind of small backpack. You definitely need water. You always need more than you think. Don't ever go out anywhere without carrying water. And I think the bladders work the best. Yep. The camel backs or whatever you want to call them. High protein snacks, nuts, whatever that is for you. Easy to carry. Always get sunscreen, lip balm, man. Your lips can get dried out with the SPF factors, insect repellent. You do need all those things as well. A hat or beanie, maybe sunglasses. Clothing wise, I like having layers, right? Extra layers, and get the right gear for yourself. Whatever you're going to have for rain gear, it's easy to get a lot of that stuff and pack it in, and it's not heavy. Extra socks and the right hiking shoes. Are you a pole person? Having like hiking with a pole or whatever. Do you guys like that?
Absolutely.
So what you like, but just remember, you just need. That's for hiking and so on. And then you're going to bring whatever else clothing and stuff that you need for other things you might be doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? While we're on shoes, let's talk footwear here because it's super important. The last time we went up Angel's Landing, because we've been up there twice in Zion, which is not an easy hike. And it's a little bit dangerous. There were so many people I saw walking around hiking that in flip-flops. Now, okay. Wow. I say flip-flops a lot when I'm hiking, and that's all fine and good, and that might be fine for you. I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to say that, for the typical hiker, maybe flip-flops is not the best thing to do when you're hanging off a cliff holding onto a chain. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. So, I would recommend getting some, the right footwear that you're going to do. We started with our, REI specials, these little boots, they have great support. They're high tops. If you're listening to this on the podcast, on a audio file, go watch this part on YouTube so you can see what I'm talking about. But I got these shoes in REI. These are just REI brand, but we also have had Keen footwear before. Yeah, really recommend those as well. Anyway, they're a high top, so they give your ankles really, really good support. I love these shoes, and I wore them a lot. These have been all over the United States hiking around. But what I found that actually, although I really love the support, I like actually this hiking shoe better. This is actually a Merrell hiking shoe. It's not a high top. Yeah, it's not a high top, but it does have really good structure and really good support in it. So these shoes here have been to Mount Whitney. They've been up Half Dome. So these are shoes that I actually really, really love. And if you're going to be in water areas, for example, the Narrows in Zion,
yes,
or in Redwood National Park, Jan, there's this beautiful place called Fern Grotto where you walk back this river, or it's really more of a creek or stream, and up on the sides of the cliffs it's all ferns. You're just walking back in ferns. It's beautiful. To get yourself some water shoes, and this brand, what are these? Oh, these are Solomon. Got these at REI as well. They're really great because they are. You can't really probably tell too, but they're
there's mesh.
So the water goes right through them, but it keeps you steady and they're kind of slip resistant when it gets on the rocks and all of that too. And then finally, Jan just mentioned it. I am not a huge pole person. My wife has two. She uses them all the time. They are good to help you steady. This pole right here, I bought it at REI. I bought it a long time ago, but here's a cool thing about this pole. If you are a social media person or you're taking a lot of pictures, boop, boop, the little top comes off. No, it's not a flask, although, boy, wouldn't that be a cool idea? Maybe we should invent that. But look, it's got that little screw on there where you can screw your little,
get out of here
camera and then plunk that in.
You don't have to carry a tripod.
It's like a little tripod for you. So even though I like the idea of the flask better, I think that this pole is the most awesome thing in the world. So I'm not sure if this is still sold or not. Let me see if I can find the brand on it.
While he's looking for that, an obvious pro tip.
It's just REI.
An obvious pro tip on the footwear from personal experience: don't go with brand new hiking boots that you haven't broken in yet and think you're going to be okay. All right.
No kidding. Oh my God. So let's just talk for a minute about being present at the park, because that's so important. Be smart when you're there. Because all right, you've done all your planning, you have all your gear, your pack is packed. Now you've made it to the park. Here's what we have. This is my biggest words of wisdom. Just don't rush the magic. Even if you're only in a park for a single day, you need to slow down, because one incredible moment at the park is way better than 50 half-seen ones. And that is the honest truth to that. So really slow down and take in what you're seeing, because the more that you observe and really feel what's happening around you, the more you're really going to get out of that. I absolutely recommend that you stop at the visitor center. I know that people might want to pass those by because they are usually crowded. That's where people are going to stop. There's a lot of reasons to go there. They're really gyms, and you're really missing something if you don't stop there. Jan O'Brien, and boy, I'm telling you, we love doing this too, is they have the stamps there where you can have the date, shows the national park on it. And usually they have a stamp that's actually of that park as well. Yep. They have a national park stamp guide. You had that, right? Your passport, Dan?
I love my passport.
Yeah,
it's always in my car because you never know.
Right. So we don't have the passport, but we have books, like hiking books from the national parks. And every time we go to a park, like, for example, since we live in California, we go to Sequoia and we go to Kings Canyon and we go to Yosemite a lot. Well, every single time we go, we take the same book and we mark in there when we went. So if you open up the page of that hiking book, you will see all of these dates and all of the multitude of times we've been to the park. It's really, really cool. So, that national park stamp thing can be used in a lot of different ways. When we hiked Half Dome, as a matter of fact, we were so excited about that hike, and there was some Ansel Adams photography of Half Dome. So we bought a print, Ansel Adams print, and then we stamped the bottom of the print from the national parks of the day we went. So it would always be the kind of the remembral of that. So not lots to do, but one thing that is always at a national parks visitor center, but you can find these people otherwhere, is a ranger. They're there to help you just answer questions that help you, give you tips on what you might be able to do, and will help you fit your level of not only expertise of hiking, but also how many times you've been to the park and what you've seen and what you haven't seen. So talk to a ranger. You will always learn something unexpected when you're talking to them, and they are so knowledgeable, and you can just tell they have a passion for what they do. One of my biggest pro tips for visiting a national park is you will tend to want to shy away from places that look like they have a million people around them. That's because you're not there to be there with a million people. You can go to Disneyland for that. But if you're in a national park, I swear this methodology works almost any park you're at. If you just walk another 100 yards from where all those people are, you're going to be alone. Because most people will go to a point, and then that's as far as they're going to go. And then they will, like, oh, there's the waterfall, seen it. Now they turn around and go back.
There's the Sherman Oak.
Yeah, exactly. If you go right down the path a little bit farther, you're going to be alone again, and you're going to be able to really experience the vibe of what that national park is. So even in the busiest parks, it doesn't take very much effort to get beyond the crowd. So don't let the crowds deter you from making a stop anywhere. Please respect the wildlife. This should be a no-brainer. Stay 100 yards from bears, because they aren't always as cute and cuddly as they are when you are playing with your teddy bear, and 25 yards at least away from everything else, if you can help that. A lot of times they're just going to cuddle up to you on the trail. We have a name that we call all of our four-legged friends in the parks. We call them Steve. And we were up at Logan's Pass up in Glacier National Park, walking down a trail, and before we knew it, and I'm not kidding you, we were surrounded by mountain goats. And it was the coolest experience ever, because we were the only ones on this trail, and we're walking along, and the goats are just walking along with us. Now, they were docile. They were not attack goats, but I can also tell you we didn't reach out to try to pet them either, because that probably wouldn't be wise. But the rule of thumb is, observe, take pictures, but definitely don't be feeding them. That is the craziest thing. Jan already mentioned this, but you have got to make sure that you stay hydrated. It's so important. like Grand Canyon, any park, but I'll tell you, Grand Canyon has so many injuries and dehydration events that happen there every year, where they have to actually airlift people out of the park because people just don't take enough water. So I can't even talk about that. So not only just in hot spots, but also you need more fluid when you're at high elevations as well. So don't forget that. And then I love this one. Use a restroom when you find it, because trust me, that your future self is going to be very grateful about that. So always be thinking about the whole potty experience. And, quite frankly, not to have too much information, but we in our pack always pack a little bag that's like our little, our little have to duty bag, just in case there's an issue that comes up, depending upon how far you're going to be hiking and, how long you're going to be gone, because, you're not a superhuman. You can't just make that not happen. Take quiet breaks. So if you're hiking on a trail and you're going to go on an 8-mile, 10-mile long hike, or even if you're just taking a shorter hike, stop and take in the scenery. Sit around for a little bit, take in, do some breathing, and let the wild into you. And then I can't express this enough. If you are staying overnight around or at a park, try to stay in one of the national park lodges or one of the inns, because it's like spending a night in history. And it really enhances the experience and takes it to a whole nother level. And if you can't spend the night in one of these incredible places, at least make it a part of your visit to stop in. Most of these lodges have restaurants, so take a quick lunch or breakfast, or have dinner if you can do that in one of the lodges. It changes the thing altogether. A lot of the places regarding these lodges have cabins too, like the Iwani has a set of cabins outside. There's cabins at Zion, there's cabins at Bryce. All of those cabins are fantastic, as you're in these little bungalows by yourself and you just feel like you are a million miles away, almost like you are in a cabin at a national park and no one else is around. It's almost like maybe you are John Muir himself experiencing what that park was like. So there's just a few. There's a lot more pro tips, but there's a few for you.
Those are awesome pro tips. As a reminder, all in our free download today that you can get at wanderingbutnotlost.com. Just go to the downloads. So let's put this all together and finish up, as only we can do here at Wandering But Not Lost, with mindful moments that really add depth to your entire national park experience. So we've included these in our download as well, but here are a couple ideas for you to take it a little deeper. So the first one's called the sit spot practice. This is just a 10-minute deal where for me, it's always going to be under a tree. Find one quiet place, just be there for 10 minutes. And we've got a little bit more of a practice in there to help you get centered and breathe, and you can follow that in the download. But the whole idea is to just take that break, take 10 minutes, get centered, bring your journal out, see what comes up for you. This one's easy. This is great. We've talked about this before. Themed noticing. Choose one thing. You're out hiking today. Is it going to be a color, a shape, a sound, and track it throughout your day? Is there a common theme that comes up? Maybe it's a particular bird or an animal. I was
just thinking that.
Right? Or let's count and spot how much wildlife we can see. That's one of my favorite things to do. Set an intention before each hike. What are you walking toward? Is there a goal of just unwinding, or you're going to have a theme like it's just going to be about peace or joy or just whatever, right? Very exciting. And then evening reflection is always powerful. We're really into journaling and encouraging everybody to do so. So jot down what you felt. What did you learn? Did you have an aha today? Matt, your idea of you got me thinking about this idea of having a national park sort of designated journal, right? That you would, like you're saying, you can annotate into the areas that you've been if you want. Is that how you have it organized, where it's like, this is the Yosemite area, and the dates that you've been? This is where you could even collect. I was thinking, as you said that, the stamps for that year. There's so much you could do, but it's also a place that you could just say what happened or what experiences that you had.
It's really funny with those stamps. I love those stamps from the national parks, because Laura and I will often be talking about, when did we go to Yosemite last? Well, we don't have to do much brain noodling on that, and we certainly don't have to Google it. We don't have to talk to our AI about that either. We just open the book cover and like, oh my God! And then what's so cool about that is when you were like, holy simoleons, we've been to Yosemite, dozens of times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's really, really cool. So
this is the date we met Steve.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We met a whole bunch of Steves that day. So clearly we could talk about national parks forever, right? But we're going to put a wrap here on episode 349. So here's the thing, whether you're a first-time park goer or a seasoned wanderer, we hope that our pro tips make your next adventure smoother and a little more soulful, because I think that's what it's really all about. You don't have to rush, and we've talked about that a lot.
So National Park Week may be winding down, or maybe it's already over as you're listening to this, but your journey into nature doesn't have to be. So pick a park, set a date, and remember to wander mindfully and with intention.
Yeah, and don't forget to grab all the notes today for our episode and all the other resources over at wbnlpodcast.com, episode 349. Remember, we also have episode 340 and 347 for you as well over there that all have national park stuff. I'm kind of trying to, with the show notes, kind of carry over a lot of the links and the stuff in from one to another, because it's kind of been growing as the week has been going on. So all of that's over there. And all of the downloads over at wanderingwithoutlost.com, you go to the download link in the upper menu and it will take you right over there. So until next time, on episode 350, by the way, another little milestone episode for our podcast here. Stay curious, stay grounded, and stay wandering but not lost.